What's new, 802? I'm Becca Hammond, and you're listening to Burlington Talks. Burlington Talks may include graphic or explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to get this episode out, but it's out. And I'm super excited to have Anthony Girelli on the show with me today. Anthony's a self-taught multi-musician. He specializes in drums and percussion, and he's been solicited as a session drummer for remote projects in the past, and he records, mixes, and masters all of his own projects in his home studio. He's currently involved in a few different projects. Fall from Sanity is the big one we're going to talk about today. He's doing that with Matt Seacard, and he's also got his own company called Girelli Melodies. You can check that out online. He has some really cool videos that he's made under that name. Anthony has also been collaborating remotely with other musicians and creating recordings during the pandemic. These are really epic recordings. I highly recommend you go to the show notes page, Burlington Talks /17. Listen to these recordings. Check them out on Reverb Nation. I am blown away by these. These are so cool. So here we go. Let's get started. Anthony, thank you so much for being on the show today. Can you tell me your full name and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, Becca. Thanks for having me. My name is Anthony Girelli. I'm a local musician. I'm more of a hobbyist. Spent a lot of times playing drums and playing guitar and working on projects mainly at home. I'm a father of two young daughters, and they keep me very busy. So most of my jam time is after 8 p.m. and one night a week, usually when I'm out jamming in the band I'm in.
So what band are you in?
I've been in a couple. We just started recently a project just before this pandemic hit. Had a Craigslist ad out there for the last year. We looking for the right singer. My friend Matt Seacard and I are in a project. We've just been writing instrumentals, and we've been looking for a singer who has the technical know-how to kind of join us in a more online approach to recording and getting songs structured and organized kind of off hours. And then when we join up to jam, it's all about, we already know the songs are already structured, and we just get together and kind of work on the live part of it. So we found a singer. He actually lives kind of far away, lives in Lake Morey, which is very eastern side of Vermont. It's about an hour and 15 minutes away, I think.
I've never even heard of that place.
The only reason I know of it is because my sister actually got married there. So I was like, oh, really? That's really far away. But he has a great voice, and he's a comic book artist. He's actually somewhat famous in the Comic-Con world.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's a plus for like album art and things like that. But he's also got a great voice, and he can hit a lot of different harmonies, and he has great technical know-how. And the only thing with recording at home is he has a bird. So oftentimes when he sends me clips, I have to edit out his bird.
Well, I have cats, and now I'm recording at home. Normally, I would record this in person, and we could actually meet each other, and it would be a whole different experience. So, if there are cats meowing, I apologize. I tried to convince them not to meow. So,
Sometimes it sounds cool in the back, so added flavor.
what kind of bird is it? Is it like a squawking bird?
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's not a talking bird. It's just it squawks every now and then. I don't even think he hears it, but I got to go in and clip that little chirp out.
Yeah, I'm sure when you live with one, they do it constantly, some of those birds, so you probably get really used to it.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. So, okay, Fall from Sanity. That's the name?
Yeah, so Fall from Sanity is the name of this project. Matt Seacard and I have actually been working on this remote recording for, I would say, since 2017. I just moved to Vermont a year ago, actually almost exactly a year ago, April 1st, from Saratoga Springs, New York. And we were working on a project. We're longtime friends. I grew up in Colchester, and I grew up in Vermont, and we went to high school and hung out together. Nice, yeah. Yeah, so he's very into, he's very passionate about everything music. So he's a drummer. He's an amazing guitarist as well. So I help kind of utilize his guitar skills, because I'm more of a amateur guitarist. I write. I know enough to write songs and play, but I'm not as technical as him. So he's really good at writing and coming up with the guitar side of things. And then we thought, hey, let's try something out where you write some guitar tracks, you send them to me, I'll play some drums. We'll see if we can get it to sound cool, and then see if we can find a singer to work with, and maybe we can come up with something remotely since we live so far away. And
I am so impressed with the songs that you shared with me on Reverb Nation. Like, these sound like, I honestly don't even know what to compare these to. I can't believe that you did this separately, for one thing, that you recorded all these tracks totally separately. You didn't coach Matt on how to record his piece. You didn't coach your singer on how to record his piece. I can't believe
oh,
how good it sounds. Like, that sounds so good. It's so clean.
there's a couple rules you got to follow to make it work right. You don't necessarily have to, but it does make it easier. Is it, you pick your BPM and you stick with it, and then it ends up being, Matt's very creative, so he ends up sending me 10 different stems to a song that's 3 minutes long, and then he's like, oh, here you go, you don't have to use them all, but here's a ton of different choices. And so I end up taking it and chop. If it's down to the BPM, you can chop it all up and kind of move things around, and it stays in time. So I'll structure the song, get the verse, chorus, pre-chorus, bridge, whatever, send it back, see if we're all in agreement on the structure, and then once we are, I'll usually lay down some drums, and then after that, the singer, throw it to the singer and have at it. Let him have his creative flow.
That's
So
so cool. Oh my gosh. So you literally start with the guitar tracks just with a metronome or a click track or whatever you're using, and that's it. You just say, okay, this is the beat per minute for the song.
exactly, yep. And
Let's see
then
what we can come up with.
yeah, and then he'll sometimes send me just 7 minutes of him jamming out to the same kind of structure, but changes it up quite a bit, and then we figure out which parts we chop and throw away and chop up and use. So there's a lot of like orchestrating in the DAW how to set it up, and so everyone's happy. So it's cool. It takes a lot of time, but it's fun. I think it comes out really well if you spend a lot of time on
Yeah.
it, and
I
learn the tricks and the mixing and mastering tricks to get it to sound cool. Yeah, it sounds pro.
it really does sound very pro. I'm extremely impressed. I think I told you that I had to send this to one of my friends. And we're like, this is a Vermont band. Like I'm gonna interview these people. And they were like, what? This is awesome. And then they're asking
Cool.
about shows, and I'm like, well, I think they're doing this remotely right now, but this is so good that people are asking about shows. So they
Yeah,
must be
no,
interested. So
it,
the
it
idea that
definitely
you
helps.
just
No, go
oh,
ahead, say.
sorry. I'm going to totally change the topic, so go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. Go ahead. I was
It's funny when we can't see each other. There's usually I'm always nodding, and like I have hand motions that people can't see. So this is always interesting. But what I was gonna say is it's really cool that you're just kind of letting. It's interesting you're letting the guitarist kind of take the lead and just letting him play around, basically. Because then if he messes around for 7 minutes, you can say, "Oh, that piece, 35 seconds into the third minute." Is really cool. Like, we should move that into another part of the song. Like, that's such a wicked idea, because you normally in a songwriting process, you're very stuck. Like, a lot of people get very stuck in a mind frame. Like, this is how my song's going to work. This is my ideas. And just getting that creative flow where you can pull different pieces in while you're jamming into an actual finished song is, oh, this is cool. I'm so excited for this idea.
it actually speeds it up like a lot. So like I think I talked to you in the chat. Like we've only jammed twice as a band. We barely even know each other. Aside from me and Matt, we met the bassist. He's friends with the singer, and they drove up a couple times. But then we had some instrumentals already written. We shared with them. But since those, we've already written two new songs in the last actually three new songs in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So it happens very fast when you have that ability to sit at home and kind of write and spend your free time in the evening like I do, putting it all together rather than sitting in a room together, and you end up kind of arguing and going over things too many times. And yeah, so it's
Right.
it's very efficient.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because when you're, that's it. When you're trying to write a song, I feel like trying to write a song is a lot different than just musically letting yourself be free. Like, you get into the certain beat per minute, the certain key signature, whatever, and then you just go, like, let it flow and see what it turns into. That's a really great idea, as opposed to, okay, here's my verse and my chorus, and I'm gonna knock out a bridge here. And yeah, and just trying to follow a formula to make it work from the start if you play around from the start and then kind of make it fit. Oh, this is cool. I'm so excited about this idea. You should write a book on how you do this.
I like to think there's a lot more people doing it, but I haven't really heard of many people doing it, and in the manner we're doing it, where it seems like what we publish is almost like to the point where I've actually posted some of the stuff on Spotify from our other project, from 3 years ago when we were doing it remotely, and people think it's done in a studio, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if I didn't know that you were recording and doing the mastering at home, I would never have thought that that was a home recording. I have
Thank
heard
you.
people do this online before, but not this genre. Like, the genre you're doing is super technical. Like, this needs to be tight. Like, if it's not tight and everyone's spot on, then it sounds not great. That's just kind of the nature of heavier music. Like, you got to be really good at what you're doing to have it sound nice and clean. So I'm just totally amazed. Like, this is some really, like, it's heavy, but it's not like screaming. I like this kind of music the most, actually, because I can kind of like bang my head to it but sing along.
Yeah, the singer is great. He's very versatile. We went through, I can't even count how many singers we've tried out, and people who've sent recordings. You know, we were just looking for the right people who have the same technical knowledge, because otherwise you're only as good as I don't want to say the weakest link, but the guy who can't get his recordings on time or sends you like a real sloppy mix, and you have to spend so much time cleaning it up. But we're starting to get into a groove where everyone's like, all right, if I send it this way, exactly in this wave format, and I split out each of them very easily. When I import all those tracks in, kind of like you probably know with your vocal recordings, it makes it very easy to play around and chop things if it's all done right on the front end.
Right. Yes. Yes. Oh, it's so good. I'm so excited for this. I'm fangirling a little bit because it's so cool. And I can't believe that you just sent me the song that you sent me this morning. I was like, I can't believe he's just, pulled another one out. And that one, I think, was my favorite one so far. The one that you
That
sent
one's
me this
it's really
morning.
cool. That one, Matt sent me the stems on, I think it was Monday. So I put the drums down Tuesday. I sent it to the singer Tuesday. He wrote the lyrics Tuesday night into Wednesday, and then I mixed it last night. And now
Wow. You
now it's
mixed that
done.
all in one night. Wow. Oh my
It's
gosh.
like a
It's so
3 day
good.
song.
Yeah, I'm so impressed. Like, this is insane. This is like a whole new way to make music. And you're doing it in a way that right now, obviously, people would love to be able to do this. If every musician had this capability, it would probably be a lot better right now. Like, a lot of musicians and bands are just hurting and they can't even practice together. And like, that sucks. Like, there's no sugarcoating that. That just sucks if you can't go
I,
out and play and
I,
see your fans. So
even
this
doing it
this
this way,
idea,
it only scratches a little itch, doing it this way, but it at least gives you something to look forward to after all this is done. Is like, look how much material, we didn't just sit on our hands. There's material that we put together, and now, when all this gets lifted, we can finally hit the scene a little bit if people are into it.
yeah.
Looking forward
Yeah.
to
Oh
that.
man. So cool. Cause you can jam at home. Everyone's jamming at home right now. But you can collaborate too. Like, this is the missing link to making like real content that is clean and polished. And even because I imagine in, a year or two after, hopefully in a year or two after all of this craziness is done, like, who's going to be going through all the quarantine videos? Like, probably not a lot of people. The stuff you're producing right now, though, is 100% going to be valid in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years from now, because it sounds like it's a studio recording. 100% is a studio recording, because really all that is does it sound good enough to be a studio recording? And it definitely does. So this is something that'll stand the test of time, and it's not like you'll feel like you didn't do well enough during the pandemic. You're going to have something to show that's extremely impressive. Like, you did this during the pandemic. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is cool. I mean, I get to the point where, like you said, I watch a lot of those Facebook Live videos from people from musicians, and it's great. It's awesome.
It
Passes
is
the
great.
time,
I'm not I want to say I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm saying it's great, but I feel like in a year or two it won't be as valid.
yeah, it's kind of it's noise. It's not polished, and it's not it's entertainment. It's like a live show, so it's
Right, right.
cool. But
Like
it
in the
has its
moment.
place. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
But
you're
yeah,
gonna have something that like you could sell this. Like this could 100% be something you put on vinyl. Like that could be a real album, 100%. Which
nice. Yeah, it's tough when you
it's so
work on
cool.
it because I hear it. I listen to it so many times in a row. I can't even tell if it's good anymore.
My friend compared your lead singer and the overall vibe to Serge Tankian,
Oh, cool.
which
I have to look them up. I'm not sure who they are, but that sounds
well,
cool.
it's the lead singer from System of a Down.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so that's kind of like a pretty big compliment. Like, yep. And I can hear it too. There was one song I was like, yeah, that definitely I can hear that vibe to it. It sounds like a few different things, but all like really big bands. Like I'm thinking of really famous people like Serge Tankian and System of a Down is insanely famous. That's one of those people that I don't know how much they would charge for a concert ticket, but it's probably not going to be less than $100. And that's what we're comparing you to. So that's something to be proud of, I would say. So, okay, let's talk a little bit more about your other project because you've got the Fall from Sanity happening right now, but you've also got other projects you've worked on and you're constantly doing musical things it seems like.
I had a little bit of a run. I'd say it was right before I moved back to Vermont. I was doing drum videos and posting them on YouTube just for fun, and just trying to keep myself occupied. I mean, a little bit of my backstory is I started drumming when I was 15 and playing guitar when I was 15 and got into the music scene when I was 15. Then I was in a band in high school and I was a lead singer. It was a hardcore band. We played at 242 quite a few times.
Cool.
And I'm 38 now, so that was like 20 years ago or whatever. But and then after that, I kind of trickled out of it. And then I would say I went to college and I was a pretty heavy drinker for a long time, like probably 20 years. And I just quit drinking up 5 years ago. In July, I'll be my 5 year 5 year without alcohol. So I
Congrats.
thank you. Yeah, so music kind of helped after when I stopped drinking, I had to find something else to do to keep my time busy and keep myself from getting into trouble. So I started just getting back into like the recording part of it, stuff that I used to do way back. And I think it's really helped. And now every time I get stressed or I have something going on or just need to take a break, I'll just go to the studio and even if it's not like a guitar or drum song, I like to dabble and make beats and kind of play with different sounds. I have Everyone says I kind of have this uh, style where I like to throw violins in a lot of my tracks. I'll even do it in the Fall from Sanity tracks. I just on the keyboard, on the MIDI keyboard, I'll throw in some violins in the background to give it a little bit of animation. And so that's what I kind of do with the beats too. It's something to do. You sit down for a couple hours and crank out a song, and then post it and then feel good about it, and then forget about it.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a very positive thing. Like this is probably the best distraction you could if you're going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to drink, but I'm going to do this." Like this is awesome. Like
Yeah,
the best thing you can possibly be doing because other people can enjoy this too. This isn't self-serving. This is, something shared with everybody.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, really cool. So, from Colchester area.
Yep. Grew up in Colchester. Went to Colchester High School. Graduated in '99. Went to Vermont Technical College.
Me
Graduated there.
Me too.
Did
Woo.
you? Yeah.
VTC in Randolph, I
Awesome.
went.
That's me too. I lived in Randolph. I went for a 2 year degree. It took me 3 years, so I was there.
A lot. I knew people who'd been there for 5 years working on a 2 year degree. So, I mean,
Yeah, it
that's not that
happens.
bad.
Well, that's cool. So you went there too, huh? Yeah, it's an interesting place. A lot of
Yeah,
cows.
it's Cowtown. I love it. Which is funny. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so going to Randolph was like a perfect little stepping stone. Like, there's people here, kind of.
That
And
was, that
then
was See, that was
moving to Burlington.
for me, I'd go there during the week, and I'd come back to UVM and party on the weekends.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. There's no parties at VTC. Everyone they called it a backpack college. Everyone went home on the weekends except for like this little tight-knit crew of people who live too far away from home to do that. I was in that little crew, so I had some people that were always there, but it was amazing how the dorms would just empty. Like there would be no one on weekends.
Which dorm did you stay in there?
The first I've actually stayed in 3 of them. I had a brief stint in Nutting, very brief
Really?
stint in
That's like an
Nutting.
all guy no in there. Yeah, I started in nutting too.
Yeah, they changed it up a few times because I don't know if it still is, but the year after I started, they turned it into just a freshman dorm. Like they put all the freshmen in one dorm, which turned out terribly. They had like 30 kids have alcohol poisoning that year. It was really bad.
I
But
can imagine.
yeah, well, that was it. The upperclassmen kind of like watch out for the kids when they come in. That's usually how it worked. At least when I started, the people in Maury, like the upperclassmen in Maury, would hang out with freshmen and be like, "Hey, don't drink too much."
Yeah, that school is like you go there for the first semester, and then half the people you know are gone, and after that, the second semester comes around. It's like
Yep.
everybody dropped. Either they first time being away from home and just couldn't handle it, or just
Or hated the program they were in. I know a lot of
oh,
kids just immediately were not digging school in general. Yeah, that's funny. I think that must happen at a lot of colleges. Like that first freshman year, you get there, and the next semester, most of like half the people that were there changed their minds.
I think the unique thing about Vermont Tech is they pretty much let everybody in. There's really not a whole lot of vetting that they do. If you graduated high school, you can, you can basically get in. So that kind of weeds itself out after the first semester of who maybe didn't make the cut with their high school GPA or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, I spent some time in Randolph. It's good times.
Quiet times. Oh man. Yeah, I one of my teachers went there and he actually had a rule implemented that you couldn't bleed out your deer in the dorm showers.
I heard that.
Because yeah, that was actually something that was a problem apparently at one time. So that
Yeah,
just kind of
I heard they had to add that to the handbook because yeah.
yeah, he said that he went into the door. I think he was living in Nutting, and he said he went in and there was 4 deer hanging in the bathroom.
Nothing's saying they can't do that. So hey,
Yeah, I get. Oh God, I can't even imagine. Like it's fine. You want to go hunting, but I don't want to take a shower in your deer carcass.
right. Yeah,
Gross.
well, that's central Vermont for you.
Yeah, oh, that was it. That was like the most Vermont thing that could possibly be a rule. Like no deer in the shower.
Right. Yeah. You won't see that in too many other states.
So, what part do you live in Burlington now? Colchester in the area?
I live in Georgia, so up near just south of St. Albans, just
Yep,
north of Milton, south of St. Albans.
I
Yeah. So
love
when
love
we moved
Georgia.
here, we moved back here. It was my parents still live in Colchester, and I work at Global Foundries in Essex. I'm an industrial engineer there, so it's a nice little commute, but I'm far enough away from Chittenden County where cost of living's a little cheaper. Housing, how get a little bigger house for your buck. So I like it up here. It's really nice. Very small
Yeah.
townish.
Yeah, it's a very nice town. I got to live in Georgia for a year and a half, I want to say. And I lived right next to the Georgia farmhouse. So it was the nicest little apartment, too. It was my favorite place that I think I've ever lived. It was just really quiet and serene. And there was a giant turtle walking down the road one day.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. We got I live in a neighborhood up here, and it's surrounded by woods, and there's trails, and
Yeah, that was such a great area. I really kind of miss it. I feel like if I was going to move, buy a house somewhere, that would be the place that I would like to be too.
I think this is the only neighborhood in Georgia because everyone says last year's Halloween was terrible weather, but everyone says in Halloween everyone in Georgia comes here, so stock up on like $300 worth of candy and
That's funny. I'm surprised they would even, I guess that makes sense though, that they would want to trick or treat in town, but I'm surprised they don't go to Milton or St. Albans where there's more of a suburban feel.
yeah, but I think there's just like one of the warnings that the people who sold the house to us said too. Hey, just be mindful on Halloween. It gets busy. It's like, okay,
That's
cool.
funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Cool. So you've been in the area for a long time, and you're a VTC grad, so you're a homebody. You did
I,
leave for a while though,
I
which is
did leave for 14 years. I went to Virginia, just outside of DC, for 7 years, and then Saratoga Springs for 7 years.
I
And
think
back,
that's the most Vermont you can be. Like I almost feel like I'm not that much of a Vermonter because I didn't leave and come back. Like every other Vermont adult seems to have left and come back and they're like, "No, this is the place you want to be."
because I mean, when I left, everyone's like, "You'll be back." I was like, "I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm pretty excited to get out of Vermont." And then you start to grow older and realize, hey, that's pretty sick. I had the lake right there, all the woods, all the mountains, very small town. The vibe is just way better. People are way nicer. It's just a better feel. And you go down to like DC, and I just couldn't. The traffic and the people there, I just couldn't handle it. And
Yeah,
then
I've heard
even
horror story. Like people are so mean on the street. Like people are just mean. It's
there's no love there. No, it's all about everybody's all about themselves. But
it's
then
funny because
you
our city, like Burlington, you walk around here and I say hello to people and they'll say hello back. And this is the big city in Vermont.
even Saratoga Springs, you think would be kind of similar to Vermont, to Burlington. It's kind of the same feel, but it's not. It's the population there's a little more, and I mean, it's not. It's pretty similar, but when the track season's on, it's kind of prissy there, and it's
Huh.
still not the same. So it was good to come back anyway. You can feel the vibe when you cross the bridge or take the ferry. It's like, all right, I'm back in Vermont.
Such a funny thing. We're such a funny little state because we really are pretty particular about how we act. Because even if you go over the border into New Hampshire, not that people there are mean, but they're not the same as people in Vermont. Like we're gonna stop and make sure that the car off the side of the road is okay. Like that's just gonna happen in Vermont. We're not I don't know. We don't just ignore each other. I feel like a lot of places just kind of like put on like blinders. Like, okay, I just worry about the people directly in front of me and my family and my life. But in Vermont, we'll like go out of our way to kind of be there for each other. If my neighbors needed something, I'd be there for them. My coworkers need something. I've even offered, like, I'll pick up something at the grocery store and bring it to you. We'll help each other. And I feel like a lot of other places are not quite so ready to do that. I might be wrong because I've never left, so I don't really know.
The best way to explain it is in Vermont, you're kind of like a bigger fish in a small sea. And the second you're out of here, it's like you're this teeny little fish in this big, huge ocean. And in Vermont, like it's like 2 degrees of separation. You go anywhere else, it's 7 or whatever, 7 degrees. But around here, if you know somebody, the chances are, they know your family somehow, or you know what I mean. Everyone's kind of connected in a 2 degree way. It's kind of
Right.
cool.
Yeah, it is kind of funny when you really start getting to talking to people. You know someone they know. Like you 100% probably know someone they know and can make a good connection with them. Yeah, it's such a great state. I really love this area in general. We're pretty lucky to be here. Can you tell me what your favorite project that you've worked on in the past is? Like, because you've done all sorts of different musical things. And I know it's probably going to be hard to pick one.
Have I was when I was in Virginia, I it was the first time I played guitar in a band, and I was in a band called Moontide, in one word, and it was an acoustic rock band. It just so happened my upstairs neighbor in the apartment that I was in he's a really good singer, guitarist, and we wrote, I think, 12 or 13 songs, completed them. We recorded 8 in a local studio down there, and I kind of like that feel of acoustic rock. And at the time, I didn't even know what a cajon was, or like a hand drums, but I would have totally been into just jumping on a cajon or something, or jamming out in that style. Because now I play percussion, and I'm always looking at who's out there doing acoustic stuff. Because I'll jump in with my hand drums and join you. And I haven't gotten a lot of bites, but that acoustic live, I think, is really cool.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I love cajones. I had one and I ended up selling it because I quickly realized I can't play that in my apartment, which was too bad, but they are really loud and they are so cool.
Yeah, I have a few now, and it's kind of an addiction because I started buying one you could sit on. I'm like, how do I? This is pretty cool. It sounds cool. Then I got this one, a T-shaped one that kind of sits in your lap, and it sounds more like bongos. And you hit one side of it, it's got the snare. You hit it right in the center, it's got this deep bass. So they're
Oh,
kind of
cool.
addictive. It's like, oh man, I could use that one for like a reggae style jam session, and then the other one's more like if I was rocking out, I could throw a tambourine on my foot and or a shaker on my foot and kind of add that element with the bass of a sit on cone. So yeah, I'm always looking for acoustic artists to work with. I wasn't blessed with a voice to sing, so that's kind of my limit. I always rely on other people to kind of sing in the projects I'm working on.
Awesome. So Moontide. Do you have anything online from that still?
Probably I I think I had it on Google Play for a while. I can look that up.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. That's sounds like a cool thing
It
though.
was,
I
it
like the
was,
name.
I wish I was in that project again now because I learned so much. That was I think 2007. So between 2007 and now, I've become much better at home recording, and I wasn't real happy with the recordings that they did down there. And the guy only charged us $100 per song, which I guess we get what we paid for. But
Right.
nowadays,
Oh, yeah.
I could have done so much with that music. Thinking back, I'm like, oh man.
All right. And how much you could do with $100 now and your own studio?
Yep. Yeah,
So
exactly.
can you tell me a little bit about your setup? Like, how are you doing this? Like, this sounds so good. So I'm sure people want to emulate that.
Have most people laugh at me because I use FL Studio 20, and everyone kind of says, that's an amateur DAW. You should be using Studio One, or what's the other one everyone uses? What's the
Oh, Pro Tools. Is
Pro
that even what
Tools?
it's called anymore? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Pro Tools, and then it's a monthly subscription, right? And you have to like stay on
So
top of it.
expensive.
So I've
I
gotten to
use
know.
Audacity, so I can't really judge you at all. Anything's more fancy than Audacity.
Yeah, and honestly, they're all great. They all do the same exact thing. It's all about how well you drive and how familiar you are with all the settings and all the plugins and everything. Because if I didn't tell you I used FL Studio to record that, and I said I use Pro Tools, maybe if you really know what you're doing, you may be able to say, yeah, and I don't think so. But um,
Probably not. I think a lot of people have once they get to a certain level, they think that their ear is like magical, but I have a hard time believing it. Cuz like frequency response, like there's only a certain amount that you can put in a song. Like you can't hear the export tool that exported the MP3 file. Like you can't hear that in the MP3. I have a hard time believing anyone can really do that.
well, they do say if you export songs, the same exact stems from different DAWs, you do get a slightly different export sound, which I haven't tested, but if that's the case, whatever, you just learn to adapt with the DAW you got to make it sound good. So I mean,
Right.
I've spent a lot of time on YouTube tutorials, and when I first started using it, you basically just got to pick one and stick with it. Because if you start to use multiple different DAWs, you're wasting time. You can just work on one, master it, get everything you need to know, learn everything you possibly can for what you're doing. I started off making beats with it, and then I realized, hey, I can do the same exact thing with guitar. Just turn the guitar into a sample, and chop it up and do it that way, and kind of move things around and add layers and add MIDI. So it all kind of blends itself together. I just spend a lot of time re-listening over and over and tweaking knobs. I'm like a perfectionist in the way I listen. So it's not like it comes through and it's automatically like sounding like that. I have a lot of different tricks that I've learned as far as like mixing and panning and different plugins that I use for guitar compared to different plugins I use for vocals and reverb on snare and all that. The drums are a whole nother level because you got. I mean, when I record my drum kit, I have 9 mics set up on my kit.
I was gonna ask that because miking a drum kit's a pretty serious endeavor.
Yeah, it's and that's if I was going to sit down, I simplify it for a lot of the tracks. I don't use all nine mics, but I can if I do that in my some of my drum videos, and I have nine mics and five GoPros going at once to record a couple different angles of the drum videos and stuff, and then you got to edit that all together at the end. It's cool. Just take some time. But yeah, it's the same thing with the nine mics on the drums. Like, all right, you got to focus on the kick, the snare, the overheads. Every single one of them has to be EQ'd differry, and you add your.
Right, right. You got to pay attention to every one of those nine mics. And like, I think four mics is hard enough. I can't imagine having nine of them to deal with. And that's just one instrument. Like, that's not like the whole band. That's just one instrument.
Yeah, and then Matt gives me quite a few stems to work with, and I'll end up panning them right and left and center, so it makes it sound kind of stereo-ish. And I have some tricks that I use when I get the mix like as close as I can to perfect, and I spend a lot of time getting that mix almost to the point where I'd call it good. And then I have like this extra trick that I do to master it, and that just like totally brings it out to another level once it's all done. And so yeah, the mastering part of it, a lot of people overlook. They think you just go in and you can mix everything and it sounds great, but then you do have to take that extra step where you listen to the overall completion of the mix, and then you tweak that final wave file
And that I
more.
think is the really hard part. I think a lot of home recording studios, because I did the same kind of thing you did. It was funny when you said that. I went with a high school band down to this place in Massachusetts, and we paid them, I don't know, a couple $100 to record like four songs, something like that. And it was just these guys' basement. Like it wasn't it was not a legitimate business. There was no like contract. It was like, here is $200 in cash. And the mastering on the track felt so weird looking back and listening back to what it said. It sounded nothing like we really did in public. It was just really interesting because like they clearly weren't, they weren't professionals, but it was just funny how much the mastering, because we heard it before he mastered it. We heard our like raw recordings. Like that doesn't sound bad. That sounds like us. And then the next day he gave us the mastered versions. We're like, whoa.
Did it sound good?
It wasn't terrible. I would say for a home recording studio for a high school band, it was pretty good. But looking back, like there was just some weird EQ stuff that sounds really wonky to me now. That being
Mm.
said, I'm, a lot older and I'm probably a lot more judgmental. I have a more seasoned ear. But even back then, I was like, it kind of sounds like we're in a tin can or something. Like something's
It's easy
off.
to do. It's easy to over process or over tweak, and if you use the wrong plugin, and yeah, and then it just it's all about taking breaks and letting your ears rest, because your ears do get tired too, and you listen to it over and over.
Oh
You
yeah,
get
you can listen to one little section 100 times and you'll think it sounds terrible, and then you'll listen to like the whole thing, like a 30-second section with that little piece in it, and you're like, it sounds fine.
the other part of this too. Oh yeah, so you finish that part, and you're like, this sounds great on my monitors, on my computer, not my on my studio monitors, and it sounds great on my headphones. And then you take it out to your car and you give it the car test, and you're like, oh man, what the heck happened with the bass here? And then you got to go back, retweak, go back to your car. Sounds great. Got it. All right, now let's go to the living room and test it on the home stereo. The 7.1 surround sound, see how it sounds. And then it's like, okay, once you get all of those finally tweaked and sounding good, then you can kind of share it.
That 100% is something that I've learned, and I've kind of learned it painfully because I'm producing this podcast. And okay, I'll listen to my headphones. It sounds good. I listen on the computer. It sounds good. I'm like, oh, it's okay. And then I listen on my cell phone. I'm like, oh, it's so quiet. Like I should have done this before I actually released it. Like I've gone back into like 4 episodes and pushed the volume back up because I should have done that. Like that is a golden tip. If you are recording, make sure it sounds good on every device you can.
And you can actually use a limiter for your vocals, so you can peak them out, um, just to make sure everything's maxed and normalized. But yeah, just everything like that adds up. And I've spent so much time doing it. I've got to. for especially for the style of music we're doing, I've got a pretty good system down. Um, I know pretty much what range the singer's in, so I can kind of EQ his vocals quickly at this point. It takes a long time to figure that out, but once you figure out what his ranges are when he's singing harmonies and what his ranges are just singing normally, you can kind of peak those EQs and bring them down in the other parts of the mix to give him room, give him space. And yeah, it's just a lot of tweaking, and then eventually you're like, I got to take a break, and and then once you post it, once you're happy with it, it's really cool because then you feel like, all right, I'm done, moving on, next one.
Right. Apparently, when you're you make 3 of these songs a week practically, which is so insane to me. I'm still like just giving you kudos. I'm so impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's certainly something I enjoy. It's it's a I love my kids, I love my wife, but I love to also detach at the end of the day, especially with everything that's going on. It's easy to get stressed out and kind of caught up in the bad news everywhere, and it's the
Very,
way for
very
me to
true.
yeah, just a way to disconnect. And some of my songs, I've noticed even some of the beats that I've made, some of the chord progressions I use are kind of more on the darker side, and it's just a feeling in the air right now, So,
Yeah.
it's funny how that gets reflected. It's like, oh, those chords, they hit home, those dark chords right now. So, eventually, hopefully, start putting together some happier tracks when it comes to the chord progressions. But
So epic though. I'm kind of like I'm shocked in all honesty. Like you guys should I don't know, get together and do a photo shoot where you all look epic together. Because it is that epic. Like it really is one of those bands that I'm like, wow, this is something I want a CD in my car. Like I want to listen to you guys just
oh,
regular life, which a lot of people like some people can listen to every single band in the world. I am someone who will throw on the radio and listen to every band in the world. But when I want to listen to somebody, I'm pretty picky. Like I'm putting on the album, I'm getting into it. And this is 100% music that I'm going to put on the album and I'm going to get into this.
that's cool. No, we're gonna keep going. I think we're just getting started as far as um, kind of getting in our flow. So yeah, this last song was the quickest I've ever done a song, to be honest. But it just happened to go like that, very quickly. But I'm hoping we can start doing. Our Craigslist ad said we'd like to put out a song a week. We're looking for a singer who's able to keep up with that kind of uh, momentum. So yeah, this guy seems like his name's Blair Shed. By the way, I should have mentioned his name, Blair Shed from Lake Maury, and his buddy Sean Dollar is also from Lake Maury. He plays bass, and then
Oh, cool.
yep. So he's also got the same setup. He's able to record his bass. I don't think he's recorded in all the tracks so far because Matt usually plays a bass track and adds it, and then just to have as a reference track.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so cool. You should when you come up with I don't know if you've made a Facebook page for your band yet or any sort of other online place besides the Reverb Nation. I feel like you should definitely, even if you guys don't want to do it yourselves, give some time to how you're doing this because it is incredibly impressive. Like I feel like this is something that they should almost teach this in music schools to people. Like, how do you do this? Because it wasn't even possible 30 years ago. It's possible now, and you clearly can do it really well. And I just feel like you could really actually help people and benefit from sharing that information with other people.
Totally. I feel like it's something that's like obvious, but I guess maybe it's not. you
I
know?
don't think it's obvious. I think a lot of people really struggle with this stuff because even just recording yourself, like that initial recording, even a cell phone recording, is so hard. When you think of those kids when you're starting playing music, and a lot of people never get out of that zone. Like a 16-year-old, yeah, I don't want to record myself. Like as soon as you start recording, they get awkward. And I'm guilty of it. A lot of people are guilty of that. So I think a lot of people really don't even, this doesn't even cross their mind that this is a possibility. And they probably don't realize how good it could be. They probably think, oh, well, that's not going to sound good.
Mm.
Clearly
Yeah.
not.
I know I've gotten that feedback too. Is it doesn't have that same feel of it. You can kind of hear that it's not the bass and drums aren't being they don't sound as connected. And I don't know. I don't necessarily. I've heard it. I know it. I can understand that. I can. I've heard it in a couple tracks, and I fix it. But yeah, it's definitely a little different than normal. You go to the studio and the bass and the drummer will jam out to the bass track, and then you have that
Right.
as your bass line flow. But I think
Yeah,
you can get over that. I think you can.
you did. You 100% got over that. I don't hear any of that in this audio track. It's phenomenal. Like, but I think that what a strong belief is that one, they couldn't do it. Two, recording's hard and scary. And like, there's just a lot of mental blockage keeping people from doing this sort of thing. But right now, at this moment, people are starting to open up to the whole concept of recording through video chat and just, okay, we can't see each other. So now we have to make this work in a different way. And you are making it work perfectly. Like, you are the thing, like the person everyone's going to want to emulate in terms of making music right now.
Thank you. No, that's I appreciate that compliment because I do spend a lot of time trying to get it to sound just right, and I'm always learning every day. I'm like, all right, let's see what else is going on in the FL Studio world. What's new and what are some new techniques? So yeah, it never ends. It's not like I feel like I've learned everything. It's a never ending learning experience for sure.
Okay, I want to just say thank you so much for coming on and talking to me today. I'm going to try and make the show notes for this one extra special and try and break down what you did a little bit so that other people hopefully can do this. Because I talk to so many different bands and musicians, and everyone kind of, the little recordings, but you're the first people that I've met who've done this completely localized. Like, you're not together at all. A lot of people do the recordings and okay, you go drummer and you go bassist, and like they'll be together and they'll do the recording separately, but not at home, not, you're not video chatting while you do this. Like, this is a at home task. You do it yourself, you hand it off, and you create something that
That's
sounds
probably
like a huge
that's
collaboration.
that's probably the best part is you do it at home. There's no pressure. You're not in a studio with like 10 people watching you trying to nail a take. You're in the comfort of your own home and you're doing as many takes as you need to get it right, but at the same time it doesn't take that many takes when you're in the comfort of your own home. So it's kind of a win-win. And then you get the take you want, and you don't spend too much time worrying about hitting that record button and kind of freezing. It's just like, all right, cool. I got as many times as I want here. There's no time limit.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, nothing to be embarrassed about. That being in the studio and the pressure, and, especially when you're someone who's new at it. I feel like a lot of bands really haven't gotten into a studio enough that they're really comfortable walking in there and confident doing that. Cause that made me play funny. Like, when I was being recorded for the first time in a real way, not like this is a fun recording, we're just doing whatever. When I had people who are claiming to be, talented recording artists looking at me, that really made me nervous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you totally get away from all that and you get the sound you want. So it's not like there's pressure and yep, it's cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And if you can do the mastering yourself, you can really do whatever you want. It's so cool. Such a cool world we live in today where we can do stuff like this.
It is amazing. 5 years ago, I'm not even sure you could do something like this because you couldn't share big files as easily. Now you got Dropbox and Gmail lets you share pretty big files, at a time. But before that, it was like, how do you share these massive files? You got to
Right. You have to like zip them and email them, and it's a whole process.
or email or like snail mail a thumb drive.
Right? Yeah, because I've heard people that would do. I knew a bass player, and he was not like a technical guy at all. But that's actually what they were doing. He had friends in Boston, probably 15 years ago, would send him a cassette tape that he would play with and record another one and like send it back. I don't know what the heck they ended up doing with them, but he was playing bass for this band that was somehow using his tape recordings, and it was literally snail mail. So
Yeah,
I always wonder what happened with those. I wonder how they sounded.
probably sound vintage, but yeah, no, it's an interesting. Back then you just adapt. You got to wonder what it's going to be like with the 5G movement. There's a lot of talk about that and the zero latency and,
Yeah, that'll be phenomenal. When we can actually play together online, I'm excited for that one. When your 1, 2, 3, 4 actually ends all on the same point on 4 and you can play together.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way to do that now as a drummer. You lose your mind hearing that,
Oh yeah.
off
Oh
beat.
no.
I live most of my day job is I'm talking to Singapore and Dresden and Santa Clara. I'm hardly ever in a real meeting, so I deal with all those audio problems on a regular basis.
Oh, that must
It's
drive you
nuts.
nuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would. Even just having to do that for like an hour is stressful when there's bad audio, but when it's a lot frequently, oh man. And when you're someone who you can clearly, discern audio pretty well, it probably drives you totally nuts.
Yeah, someone's using like their old, microphone and just like rubbing on their shirt or whatever. It's like, oh,
Yes.
dude.
Uh, okay, thank you so much, Anthony, for being on the show today. I really can't thank you enough. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, Becca. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the end of the episode today, and huge thank you to Anthony for coming on the show. What a great, talented musician, and what epic mastered tracks. I still can't believe these are coming from a home studio. Honestly, check them out if you haven't gotten to yet. Check out the show notes, Burlington Talks /17. Go on Facebook, go wherever, find me, talk to me. I love getting messages from people. Burlington Talks music is created by Jared Baker. Thank you so much, Jared. I think it sounds awesome. That's what's new in the 802.